welcome to episode 506 of the God is a Geek podcast. My name's Adam Cook. I'm your host, and I'm joined by the one and the only Chris Hyde. Hello, Chris.
Hello, Adam. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I knew you were going to say how are you, so I thought I'd say it at the same time.
It's like I'm just automatically and predictably polite. That's
you
what
are.
It is.
Lyle, how are you? Are you polite?
I am good. I'm not polite. Fuck the lot of you. You guys can... I'll do this on my own. You guys can get out of here. Have the night off.
That's enough for me.
Right.
Too far to go. It's another podcast. I want to say that up front, if I could learn to speak English again, just to say up front, in the front of the area, we might be a little bit sporadic going forward for the next couple of weeks when it comes to podcasts over the Christmas period, because we have the little known thing as Game of the Year to record. And if you have just found us in the last few months and don't know, they tend to run between 10 and 15 hours. So it's a lot of podcasting, a lot of seeing each other's faces, quite frankly, and sometimes you just need a break from one another, don't you guys? I mean, I know that Chris is just so ready for the Christmas break, so he hasn't got to look at Lyle, you know.
I'm done with him, to be honest.
Well, you've got to record a lot of podcasts, yeah. So let's get started. Yeah, there's the pre-apology out of the way for if we fail to. We tend to at least get one out every 2 weeks when we're really busy. If that's stretched, just know that you'll have tens of hours of Game of the Year stuff to
what you're basically saying is don't be ungrateful.
Well, I was also going to use this opportunity to say that if you really do feel like you're missing out and you need a hit of God is a Geek Cruise output on things, you could also just go to patreon.com/godisAgeek and subscribe there, and you'll find a bonus podcast which you can go back and listen to in full. There's loads of them on there, but we did a whole series called Breath of the Lyle, so go find that. But until you get that desperate, I really am having trouble with the language barrier. Didn't you know that I'm actually French? I've been watching so much of the World Cup that I've suddenly become multilingual, and speaking English has been difficult. And that's really not a good time to be talking about a game with this title. Because, Lyle, you can kick us off this week, mate, with Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. No, sorry, I'll say it properly. Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. There.
Yeah. It's also important that the dashes have to be without spaces either side of the Final Fantasy.
Yeah, right up the back and the front.
Semicolons in the middle of words.
It is. It's ridiculous. It's stupidly named, but the important thing is it's a good game.
In a preview sense.
In a preview sense, of course. Always in a preview sense until it can be more than that. But yeah. If you didn't play Crisis Core on the PSP, it is a Final Fantasy prequel, I guess, starring Zach Fair, I believe is his name, who is the sort of black-haired guy who looks like Cloud, is the easiest way to explain it without spoilers.
See, you said that in your preview, and I should have corrected that, but the YouTube commenters have done us the duty. It's not that Zach looks like Cloud, is it?
Well, no, it's not. But realistically, as someone who's played Final Fantasy, there's one character you know more than the other. And chronologically, in terms of playing that game, you get to know Cloud on the original Final Fantasy before
but listen,
you get to know
that's
Zack.
Not the point. The point is the Final Fantasy fans are saying that you were incorrect factually, which is the most important thing.
That's true, yeah. But just as importantly, I don't care.
No, I know you don't. It's mega weird, right? Because when Final Fantasy VII was released back in today, obviously it's one of my favourite games, if not my favourite game of all time. And so I kind of consumed as much as I could. I thought I'd played this, but playing it now, I don't remember any of it at all. Now, I played a game on PSP that was Final Fantasy VII related, but I think it was a different. I think because there were others, weren't there? Wasn't Dirge of Cerberus and stuff? And
that wasn't on PSP. That's a PS2 game.
What the hell did I play?
Yeah, I don't know what you played.
Schooled by Lyle on.
Well, no, it's also possible I just did play all of this and have completely
forgotten it completely.
Every single bit of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it does look pretty modern. I'm not going to say it looks like Final Fantasy VII, remake. Not quite,
Not
But
quite,
it's
but there are moments where you go, like when you're sort of watching, you go, that was almost Final Fantasy VII
yeah,
remake.
yeah.
Like it's not far off. Yeah, they've done a really good job of modernizing it from what I've seen in the first 3 chapters,
Hmm.
which like it feels like a game that's maybe not like the most high end like AAA beautiful game never made,
No,
but
no,
in
but you
terms of
know what? It
everything
feels
else.
modern gameplay wise, I think.
It does. It really does. They have done a few things that have like helped with that I think have smoothed out the combat a bit, which
Mm.
I think it sort of plays how you remember it playing as opposed to how it actually played on the PSP. And they've definitely modernized it for more like modern controls because obviously the PSP had like one shoulder button on each side as
Yeah.
opposed to two, and it didn't have like the L3, R3, and stuff like that. So there were things that worked differently to it. But yeah, I think the main thing to say is like, if you're going in expecting like or like at the time, when people played this game on the PSP, it was the next game in the Final Fantasy VII saga, I guess, and it's not this slow-paced, turn-based JRPG, which there's nothing wrong with, but
No.
like Crisis Core is pretty heavy on the action, pretty fast-paced,
Yes.
really.
Very, very.
And it's like I described it as being kind of similar to Kingdom Hearts, which might put people off a little bit, but like it's basically like it's more of an action game than an RPG, really. You've got like you run in with your attacks, you've got like a dodge roll and a block, and then you've got all your materia abilities. So your blizzards, your fires, your assault twister. I think that's the first combo sort of attack you have. And it all works really well. It's all fun. But then the thing that really makes things stand out is the DMW. Is that the letters we got? I got this wrong in the preview.
I think you were thinking about driving lessons or something. DMV, you said.
Yeah,
but
I think
I
it's
missed
DMW
it as well.
or something. Digital Mind Wave, I think. Maybe that sounds about right.
Whatever it is,
it's
it's a roulette in the top corner of the screen, isn't it?
There's a slot machine in the top corner of the screen, 3 little reels. If all the pictures line up to be like of a specific character, be it like one of your sort of Shinra allies or like a summon like Ifrit, like Final Fantasy favorite Ifrit, then you get like essentially a limit break. So a big powerful move or something that really kicks things off. And then alongside that, there's numbers on the reels too. And if you get like 2 of the same number, like it'll level up a materia. If you get all 7s, you'll level Zap up entirely. Then you get things like you get your HP, like suddenly you can't take damage from physical attacks. You get unlimited MP to use your magic. And it just sort of means that in every fight, it always feels like something's like really big's happening in the background. Like it feels like at any time, like things can be flipped on its head. Like you might be getting your ass handed to you by like a particularly tricky boss, and then suddenly you can't take damage from physical attacks, and all it's doing is swinging its big axe at you. So you're doing all right, or like then you'll get a powerful limit break, and it all sort of swings around. It's a really cool system. Like I think when people think about it being like the slot machine aspect, I think people like sort of think about oh it's all this luck based thing, there's no skill, etc. But it doesn't feel like that at all. It just feels like there's always something fun around the corner.
Yeah, it just keeps battles really interesting. It just keeps the simplest of battles really interesting. Whereas really what you're doing is just hammering square. It makes them a bit more entertaining, doesn't it?
I mean, I'm just seeing because I've not played it, but is it No More? Was it No More Heroes 3 where they did that?
Yeah, that's in there a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, but this sounds like it's more consistent. Like it's
it progresses as you play. Like it,
like you get more
you meet
things
people, and it's to do with the emotional connection. And like the more you meet someone and they become part of the story, so to speak, and then they'll be added to the roulette wheel. Whereas at the start, it's just like silhouettes, and you haven't got a clue who's what. It's a really interesting combat system that, like, I feel like if it didn't have it, it would actually be fairly boring. If you know what I mean, it would be. You kind of that's like if RPGs, like there's a battle with an electric thing, a robot, so you use your electric materia to zap it quickly, and then there's like a human, so you burn it. It follows all that sort of stuff, and but the combat is just on the square button, so to speak, where you got dodge roll on the cross. I think R1's block, and then hold down L1 to use the face buttons for your materia choice, and you do your loadout like you would in any Final Fantasy game, certainly 7. it's just quite surprising. Like it's a really odd time to release it, I think.
It is.
this late in the year. But I guess it's Final Fantasy, so like I mean, Square don't have to think too much about when they release Final Fantasies, do they? Really, because they sell. So, and it's Final Fantasy VII as well at that point. So,
yeah, and it's a clever thing to release in general as well, because obviously it's like sort of the perfect time, I imagine, between the first part and the second part of Remake to have something where it's kind of like it's this old game that you are modernizing. Like they've taken all the voice actors from Remake and used them to like make sure that it's all consistent with this game as well.
Yeah.
So if you really want your fill of Final Fantasy, and obviously it has a lot of the same music, which it hits you right in the feels, because for anyone who loves Final Fantasy.
the blue menu systems, the styling.
I was going to say that it looks very much like
Final Fantasy
Remake. Yeah,
and that's a good thing. It's like I said, I don't.
You
play
get the
yeah, that's
you sure do.
You do. It's even got like I won't bother saying. It's in our preview video, but like there's an intro that's very similar, but of course you're Zack, not Cloud now, and it's like yeah, I mean, in a preview sense, like Lyle says, I can't really add an awful lot, and certainly can't add anything negative. I just am enjoying myself with it. It doesn't feel like it's going to like revolutionize the world or break the mold. It just feels like a really, really good game so far. Whether it sticks that landing, I don't know how long it is, but we'll see, I suppose, won't we?
Yeah, I wish I could remember how long it was, because I definitely played it on the PSP, and you might have done.
Well, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Unless another game used that roulette system, I definitely played it.
Yeah,
and it would have to be another Final Fantasy game on PSP, so I must have played it. Maybe I just didn't finish it.
Yeah, maybe, but works really well.
Come back in, I don't know, a week or two. Well, probably next time we podcast, I would imagine. Whether I don't know. We'll carry on playing it, won't we, Lyle? Basically,
we sure will. I am. It's on downstairs, or it's ready on sleep mode for when I'm done.
Fair enough. Well, talk to me about the next game on your list then.
Okay, I will. The next game.
Fool.
I am a fool, thank you. I'm on a ship, and there's more of me, and it's a ship of fools. Yeah, does that work? Is that okay?
It works. Yeah,
it works. It's great. Okay, so ship of fools.
He's so angry I did that. Look at his face. He's like, you're ruining the podcast.
No, it's not you I'm angry at. It's the BBC. If I'm honest with you.
Oh.
There was a TV show called House of Fools, and it got 2 series and then cancelled, and it was just so weird and funny. It's Bob Mortimer and Vic Reeves. And it was very them, and every time I hear Ship of Fools, I think of House of Fools, and it makes me angry at the BBC. So, anyway, it's on the screen right now if you're watching the video. Not the House of Fools, that would probably be problematic. We'd get copywritten.
We probably the idea of Lars trying to talk, you just put a random BBC program on instead.
Maybe
sorry, Lyle.
Yeah.
Ship of Fools.
Ship of Fools is a roguelike. Roguelike? I don't know.
It is a rogue. It's a roguelike or a roguelite, if you want, whichever one you'd prefer to use in this situation. It's a co-op roguelike.
Yes.
So that's kind of the big selling point, because you don't really get a lot of co-op roguelikes. It happens. There was Risk of Rain 2. I think that was one. I don't know if I can think of
game.
But I don't think I can think of any others. But Ship of Fools is essentially you're on a ship, you and your co-op partner of choice. I think you can play. Well, I know you can play it solo, but it's not as good as you might expect. But you and your co-op partner of choice are on the ship, and essentially, like, you sort of pick your route through a map, and every time you go to a new sort of like node on this hex-based map, you'll have to fight a big old few waves of sea enemies. So you've got like cannons on the ship, and you have to sort of move them to each side of the ship. You just pick up a cannon. It doesn't matter. You just fucking grab it and move it to the other side of the ship, and you load it up with whatever ammo you've got on board, and you just sort of blast at them. It's really simple, but then obviously, because it's a roguelike, there's going to be a lot of different little things you find, like little trinkets that give you % chances of burning things, or like different types of ammo. So the basic ammo's a bit shit, as you might imagine, and then as you carry on, you might get one that's like.
Is that the description underneath?
Basic ammo, a bit shit. Yeah, but you might get one that's like, this one goes through enemies. So like, if you've got like loads and loads of enemies filling up the screen, goes through them all, does loads more damage. There's one that my favorite was a big like oil drum that you fired, where once it hit them, it also soaked them in like an oil that made them weaker. So each shot afterwards did more damage. So that was really good. I think what's really clever about it is, so like on each of these screens, you'll probably get like pretty overwhelmed by enemies. There'll be a lot of them, but your ship never really like directly takes damage. So like enemies might fire projectiles at the ship, and then it'll leave a little like orb of fire on the ship that you can go over with your oar and swing at it so it puts it out instead of damaging you. Or they might, if you've like don't kill them fast enough, they might disappear.
Like in real life, presumably.
Yeah, when you get an oar and there's a fire.
Swing it at fire.
Swing at it, it's gone. Yeah. And then, or they might like, if after a while they might disappear and then pop up next to the ship, and then you've got sort of like a few seconds to go up with your oar and hit them away instead of letting them hit your ship. So like, you always sort of have a bit of a chance even when you're overwhelmed. So sometimes there'll be a particularly fucking awful like boss fight or something, and there'll be like a good few minutes of you and your partner just running around on deck like madly hitting things and trying to make sure that no damage happens. And then eventually, once you get on top of things a little bit, one of you might have just a spare moment to jump on the cannon and slowly whittle them away. And it feels really good. The only real issue with the game is, I think once we had got to about, like, it was our third session, I think. So me and my partner, we played it's sort of like a few 2-hour sessions. And on the third session, we beat the game and we were like, oh shit, that was unexpected. And good job. Like, I guess we got lucky on this roguelike. And then on our next session, I think we won every single time we played. So every run was just us winning. And he's never played a roguelike before. So this was kind of like a new experience for him anyway. I've played quite a lot, but usually when you review a roguelike, you maybe win once ever, and it's a bit of a fucking nightmare to be like, oh look, I beat this game, because it doesn't usually happen. But and then once you finished it, it kind of feels like that's it. Like, I couldn't figure out if there was some sort of true ending or anything, or it didn't seem to get any harder upon being beaten. It was just sort of like, we have got to the skill level where we win most times, and that was the end of it. And we'd played for 6 hours at that point, so it's not like we hadn't really got our value. But when you think roguelike, you kind of think, I could play this forever. And it didn't really feel like that. But
I was going to ask, maybe you've kind of answered it, but I was going to ask about the difficulty between solo and co-op, because that's always an interesting thing, especially when in like a roguelike, and whether it balances properly. I don't know if the co-op aspect is why it's easier, or the game is just generally easier than other.
I think it is just that it's generally easier. Like, when you play solo, it changes, so you're not just facing like double the enemies as one person, because that would probably be a nightmare. But there are also like specific power-ups you can get that can help with that, or specific cannon types. Like, there's one cannon that, because you can sort of select, you have 2 cannons at all times, and you can have them be like different sorts of cannons essentially. And one of them you can get is like an automated cannon, where you basically, as long as you fill it up, it's essentially a turret. So
I got that on my first run.
Yeah,
because I played exclusively solo.
Yeah,
and I think I'm missing out, if that makes sense, on playing solo. I don't. I would mean fair play if they've balanced it, but I would imagine playing it co-op, it makes the game easier.
Well, it's very hard to balance. I would argue, roguelike.
Yeah,
it's I know it's not the same, right? But it's like an Overcooked or something.
Well, it's funny you say that, because that's what this game reminds me of. Actually, moving the cannons about is very much the kind of shuffling around.
Whilst they do try and balance with more, they're infinitely harder on your own, because the amount of things you have to do at once.
I've done a couple of runs now, and I haven't done. I assumed it's the boss where there's like tentacles coming out of the sea, and I'd be honest with you, I don't know what I was doing wrong, because I kept shooting them, and then they just kept multiplying, and it's like, well, I can't manage this. I've got an automatic cannon that's too slow, and I'm shooting them, and I can't manage it. But I was thinking, God, if I had someone else with me, this would be a piece of piss. So it did make me wonder, but I guess we've had such opposite experiences, we can't really be sure.
Because I pretty much I played it. I had like one solo run essentially, just like, and it was quite early on when I didn't know as much about what I was doing. And then I pretty much played co-op because it wants you to play co-op. That's kind of the point of the game, really.
Yeah, I
But
think so.
Not
It's
called
got
Ship of
online, by the
Fall,
way.
is it?
But we should mention it's also got online co-op.
it does, yeah. You don't have to be playing locally. It
No.
works really well locally, but like, yeah, there's the option for online. But yeah, the Overcooked thing, although it's a very, very different game,
Yes,
it is
it
kind
is.
of apt as well in the way that you really do have to communicate as well. Like when you know what's coming and, agree who's going to deal with what and, oh God, there's loads of things on deck. You just focus on that. I'll try and shoot a few things, that sort of thing. Like it works really well in that regard. It's a lot of fun in that sort of cooperative teamwork, shout at each other sort of way that you want it to be.
Yeah, I like I say, my experience has been very different to yours because I've played solo. I genuinely, I was like, I don't think I want to play this. If I had someone to play it with, I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more. Like, and none of it's bad. Like, there's no part of what I played where I'm like, it's bad. I just feel like it really, unless you're going to play with, I guess you can play with randoms. I think you can.
I think so.
I think there's matchmaking, or unless you've got someone to play with.
I find those games would always be a risk to play with.
Well, there's no real griefing opportunities though. There's no.
You can hit each other with the oars.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
So it doesn't really do much, but it like knocks you over. So you
Okay.
can sort of like combo the other person, and sometimes that happens when
That
you're
seems
all
odd-
frantically.
odd
When
to
you're all
put
trying
that
to
in.
frantically, yeah. So if you're frantically trying to clear the deck, I guess it's supposed to be like so you don't just both
Okay.
push in at the same time. Because if you do, one person knocks the other over, and then like you're not really playing efficiently, I guess.
Okay, that does
But-
make sense. Yeah.
But like, yeah, if you were playing with a random person, they'd definitely just hit you with that oar over and over again, and they'd love it. They'd love every minute.
Yeah, you're probably right.
But,
Yeah, I mean, go read the review on godasageek.com. I forget what you gave it, but it was quite a decent score. Chris Hyde, what have you been up to?
This week, I have been mostly playing. Been dying to say that. I've been playing God of War Ragnarok. Let's rip the plaster off. That's the only game I've been playing pretty much, other than little bits of FIFA and COD. This is my game at the moment. Yeah, it's all right. No. I actually haven't. Unlike you, I didn't go back and play God of War again. More recently. You played it, I think, for the
Steam Deck and PC.
Yeah, you've played it recently, haven't you? So
reasonably.
I was like, thank you for this recap, because it gives you a nice little handy God of War recap. I was like, I really need this.
Do you know what? I never looked at that. I never actually watched that.
It's very top line, but I was like, I remembered bits, but it was quite handy, I think, to have that, because it obviously follows on story wise. There's a few things I'll get off. I'll say right off the bat, right? That I know you and Chris have spoken about this. Firstly, this game is fucking stunning to look at. It is the nicest looking game I think I've ever seen. I think it's up there anyway from a technical standpoint. It's very. There are a few things that are right. Okay, I tend to fixate on really random stuff. So here we go. Here's one for you. Characters' hands. Right.
Okay.
Right. But you didn't realize that was going to be a thing, right? Characters' hands. Like I am. Right. I'll start off by going. I have a lot of respect for the people that make games. And I imagine making games and making things realistic and working games is very difficult. So please bear that in mind of what I'm about to say. I have a lot of respect for people that dedicate their lives to, developing and making games.
But
hands, however, seem to be a thing that are very hard to make look realistic. I don't think I ever mentioned this, but I think is it Xenoblade Chronicles? All their hands look pretty massive compared to like the actual size of hands. And in other games, it's like they just don't quite look right. Kratos' hands look absolutely gorgeous. Like it just like.
Sorry, I thought you were going to go the other way with this. Okay.
No, his hands, right?
Okay, right.
And there's another thing that I'll come on to as well, which they do. Again, God of War does really well, but like it's just like, and it's not just that they look nice, but it's they look like hands in all of the motion that it does. It's not like often I think because there's obviously all the digits and the knuckles and everything, like they never seem to like respond like hands should, and it just looks like hands. And I'm almost looking for it to not look like hands, because in every other game I've ever seen with characters, it's like your hands look weird. And they don't. And his hands look absolutely as rugged as they should do for a man that's wrecking up the shit as much as he is. Second point of random things I fixate on in games that I was really pleased at in God of War, up until how much I've played. But you know that thing where you have a character model and they're wearing clothes and then they'll look a certain way and they'll stab themselves in their head with their own armor because of the modeling and things, and different parts of things will go into their chest and stuff and all that sort of stuff, because obviously character modeling is hard, and modeling it for every single movement, it's difficult, and it kind of, in certain games, it can kind of take you out of the immersion. That doesn't happen in this. It's so well done. It sounds stupid to fixate on stuff like that, but it just highlights the attention to detail in this game.
Don't you think that's sort of like how 2018 was sort of... I said at the time that it was like this new kind of bar in terms of production values. Like, I feel like this is just doing that.
That's what it is.
I know, and we shouldn't be like, well, yeah, but of course they did it before. But it is like the production values on this series are still top shelf.
Yeah, it sounds stupid. I fixate on, but it's like I can't think of it because in every game it happens, and I'm like, you know. Even with like hair and stuff. I mean, Kratos is a bad example to use with hair, but like,
well, he's got the beard.
He's got the beard, but it's like in most games, you're just like, it doesn't quite always land. Like, and it's like I'm nitpicking, but like, I don't even have to nitpick on this because it's clearly been considered, and it's not just in his starting armor. It works, but you try and stick a different piece on, and all of a sudden his arse is hanging out of his like, outfit. It's not. It's so good, and it's true of all the characters and the different armor sets, and it sounds stupid, but no one else is going to talk about that on this podcast, and I will. So I just thought it was.
But I think it elevates things just that little bit. Like when you're going for a game of that level of production and that sort of AAA. I mean, it's it's real top tier stuff, isn't it? Like to have that. The opposite of what you're saying happen would be, well, hang on, lads, come on, you know what I mean, wouldn't it? And then it doesn't let itself down in that respect. I think
it doesn't. And I'm not trying to say that every game should fucking do this, but the fact that they've achieved what they've achieved in a game that is as expansive, it's not like sometimes you go, okay, well, if it's all like, if it's all like almost cutscene type cinematics, then it doesn't matter as much. But like the fact that it's like free moving character models with a lot of combos and everything else going on.
The Xenoblade example is perfect because like the
Xenoblade's
60 hours of that, and like it never stopped annoying me how their eyebrows.
The eyebrow, I know.
How did nobody point this out ever, or did they? And they were just like, look, tough.
Yeah, I couldn't. Yeah, that's the thing. I was just like. But and in that game as well, like, the characters move and like their hair might go over through their shoulder and stuff, and it's a bit like, okay, you kind of got to let certain things go. But the fact that I don't have to let it go, it's just it's outstanding. It's really good. So yeah, hands and outfit, gold star on God of War. Like I say, you don't get this critique anywhere else.
No.
On the flip side, like I said, this won't make any other review. I will say. There is an interesting approach to support character puzzle solving help in this game that I'm just going to mention because it's like there's quite. I like from what I've played. I'm about I don't know. Let's say 12 to 15 hours in. I don't quite know how many hours I've been playing on it, but I'm that kind of. So I've come across a few puzzles. From what I like the puzzles. From what I've seen, they're quite varied. They've got nothing in the puzzles revolutionary, but it's all really done really well, like the stuff that's in there. So I'm really enjoying that at the moment. And none of it's like, it's not a puzzle game, right? So it's not trying to confuse you in the sense of I'm going to stump you for ages. So more often than not, you know what you need to do. You're just trying to figure out, I don't know, I'm trying to get the right angle for an axe throw, or I'm trying to whatever. Right? But I can see what I'm supposed to be doing here. I can see what the developer had in mind with what you want me to do. I'm just trying to figure it out.
Just executing that solution.
Yeah. Well, if it takes you more than 30 seconds to figure that out, your support character of the day sort of starts going, "Oi, oi, idiot, you might want to think about doing this. And I'm like, oh, I know, thanks. Like, I'm aware. And then they'll go, oh, he still hasn't figured it out. Let's give him clue number 2. And it is like that. There's the way you can see it. It's like almost like there's like 3 or so levels of clues that they give you. It's like, if you're still trying to figure out, they go, in the end, they just go, just use the axe to hit that or whatever it is. And it's like, yes, I know. And like I say, most of the time, there will be a couple of times where I'm like, I don't know what the heck you want me to do here. And it's like, oh, I didn't see that thing hidden in the corner over there. Fine. But like most of the time, it's like, I'm just getting there. Just wait. And it just made me laugh because it happens quite a lot and you can't turn, it's automatic. It's not like, it's not like
press X for a hint.
Yeah. Not like Navi in Ocarina of Time's going, listen, and you can ignore.
It's worth noting there are some settings in the options for puzzle solutions.
Is there
and stuff.
for that?
I believe I remember seeing, because it is one of the most accessible things. Sony are very, very good with accessibility these days. I believe there is a puzzle regularity, like I can't think what the terminology would be, but I believe there is something like that. Now it might be that you can only turn it up more, but
in which case,
still,
it's all my fault.
No, it's not. I'm not defending it. I'm just saying. I think,
but it did make me laugh. I have to say, like, because it's literally every character that because they swap in. I won't spoil anything else, but like, it is like it just made me smile that it's the same approach. I don't want to say too much about this game because there's going to be lots of conversations about it in the future podcast, so I don't want to nail a lot of my colours to the mast ahead of time.
It's funny that you mention that, because the one thing I think I love more than anything, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like, oh yeah, I'll keep my cards close to my chest about how I feel about this game. I think I've made it pretty clear. I just love the characters. I was trying to get the platinum before other things came up. And holy shit, 40 plus hours, 10 plus after I finished the game, there's still dialogue popping up from these characters that I'm like, what? What? And there's, it's really surprising how, I reckon there's stuff I've missed, because there's, I don't know if we can get into it or not. There's, talking about support characters, I guess. Yeah. There are quests you can do where the support character may be different.
Yeah.
So whoever you're doing it with, it changes the dialogue. And
so therefore, the characters have had to have been voiced just in case you're with them.
With them. I'm like, what? You didn't even... I wouldn't have noticed if you hadn't done that. If you just had that person say nothing while I'm doing this, I'd have gone...
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I wouldn't have done anything. I'd have just been playing it. The fact that they say it and you're like, what? I will say, like,
I won't spoil a lot of stuff, but like... Because the voice acting is good, and like you say, you like the characters, which kind of voice acting has to be good for you to like them.
I make no secret of the fact I think some of the voice acting is some of the best I've ever heard.
Again, I'm trying not to reveal too much about but some of the bants are brilliant as well. Like, yes,
they make you believe.
I almost felt seen. I'll be honest.
Yes.
There's a couple of moments in it. This probably happens with other characters as well, like you say, because they record various things, and it was just like, "Oi, Kratos, where you going?" And Atreus just goes, "Oh yeah, he just likes to go and loot stuff." And I was like,
he likes to go and get the loot.
He has to go and find everything, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, that's like it's just like a personality test.
But once again, they could have not done that. And you would not have... It's not a case of you'd have been, well, it's a bit shit, they're not saying anything. Maybe someone somewhere would have gone, they're not reacting to the fact we're in a hurry and I'm off. Maybe someone reacts to that. But the fact that you go off and you're like, well, there's a treasure chest over there. And there's a bit... Well, what's over there? There might be a collectible. And the fact that someone's like, where are you going? And then someone else is like, yeah, he does this. He can't help himself.
But then,
it's like, that's ridiculous.
And then what happened later on in the dungeon, it was like, where's he off to? Oh, no, I remember. That's what he does.
Yep. And the reactive dialogue is...
I was like, if I didn't go off the beaten path, all of that dialogue never gets spoken.
Never gets heard. No.
And I was just like, apart from the fact that now every character's taking the piss out of the way I play this game.
But they do that, and that makes you feel like you're part of the story, not someone playing the story out.
I'm Kratos, and that is what you. And it's. I mean, there's things we will say about this game, but it is.
I'll just goes to say I cannot believe the redemption arc that the not necessarily Kratos, but the God of War series. Not that anyone ever at the time was like, "Oh, God of War, that's a bad series." No one was ever like that. They always did well, but you know how like games get rebooted, and they like so Final Fantasy VII. We talked about Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy VII remake had some things that it had to change, didn't it? For the cross dressing, I believe the stuff they had to not remove but change their approach to.
It was like the tone almost, really.
Yeah,
it went from being
yes.
It went from being sort of like this is the joke to this is
Ha
this
ha!
almost
Look at them, what they're doing.
celebration.
He's being emasculated. Ha ha! To, like you say, the opposite of that. No, it's but that's just like one scene. They've taken that, like, and also it's really important, and we will talk more about this in Game of the Year time stuff. It's really important to note when you play the first game, the 2018 game. There was quite a long period of that game where you're sort of asking yourself, "Hang on, is this a remake or a reboot, or is this actually my Kratos?" Do you know what I mean? Is this the same one? Is this the same? Because they never heavily address that in the 2018 reboot. In this one, it's made very clear exactly what's going on, who he is, and this isn't a reboot. This is Kratos. Okay. The turnaround for that game in terms of, I mean, the tonal shift is, I mean, you just have to say well done, don't you, to whoever pitched this as the new God of War. Can you imagine like some old Sony exec there who was like the person okaying God of War 1, 2, 3, and you know the sex cutscenes where you get to just hammer the button for Kratos and it made the screen shake. The GTA-ness. Almost of God. Can you imagine that? Then go that right. One,
what we're gonna do in 2018?
Just sat there going, what? You want to? Sorry, were you born when we made these games, young man? But like it, and you know, it makes you wonder if people my age should be there going, well, bloody world's gone bloody mad nowadays, hasn't it? Bloody Kratos not having sex with multiple women and having a child he cares about. Bloody world's gone mad. You know what I mean? It's like. I can't, because I think this is the best. I can't believe it. I cannot believe sometimes the story and character development in this guy. I can't. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it, Chris. You know.
Yeah.
You are enjoying it, I presume. You haven't actually said.
No, I am. Listen, I was gonna. I joked earlier I was gonna moan about it.
You did. That's what I was waiting for.
No.
And I had a rebuttal planned and everything. So.
I'm not gonna. No, listen. I think
he hates it. I can tell.
No.
Man's never played a Metroidvania before.
To be really clear, I don't hate this game. I don't want anyone to think that I do. I think this game probably thinks it's a Metroidvania a bit when it isn't, and I don't.
And I just say finish the game, and we'll talk more about that. Soon, I suppose. Soonish.
Yes.
Well, for us, not so much for the audience, I guess.
Yeah. Well, that's whetted your appetite as to when me and Adam.
It's wet summing, mate. It's wet summing. Positively slick. Marvel's Midnight Suns we talked about recently. Okay. And it's a bit. Sometimes the job's stupid. I know we joke about that in a preview sense. I know we joke about that because, like, sometimes if you're actually playing a game. And you're like, I played the first hours of it, and it's good so far. Hopefully, like you sometimes I have to wonder what publishers are thinking. Like, do they think the game's shit after that preview section? Do you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah. Don't talk about this bit.
Because like Marvel's Midnight Suns, like genuinely, we've got a category where this is going to feature heavily. I think for anyone who plays it, because I can't believe. I mean, I liked XCOM. I like Firaxis generally. I think they're kind of one of those developers out there. There's not many developers out there kind of doing what they do. Like, there's a lot of strategy games come out, but like the XCOM, the reboot of XCOM, which sort of brought that whole genre back a bit, phenomenal. Like, you know, like, but this is. I mean, I don't want to say it's a card game because it's kind of not. It's a turn-based game where you, rather than having just a boring menu with your things on, it's a deck you've built. Do you know what I mean? You've built the deck in yourself, and there's loads of cards, loads of abilities. They synchronize with one another. There's like it's just so deep, this game. There's so much to discuss, but it's absolutely phenomenal to the point where I'm playing it at the start, and I'm like, well, look, I want to play it because it's a Firaxis game, but like my top 10 is pretty much there. Oh shit, no, this is pushing in, and then it's pushing up, and then oh my god, all of a sudden my top 10 means nothing anymore because this game is so good. Like Mick and I were playing it, and Chris White actually, and we were all kind of like just saying the same things about how amazing it was. And to be honest with you, you can only review the game in front of you, and I genuinely think Mick would have given this a 10 out of 10 if it didn't have the bugs it had. And he got really unlucky with some bugs, and we had the game for a long time. It's a really long game, by the the way. Like it's like Mick went to a preview or like a presentation. Well, they said that, and we were both like, it's not fucking 60. It's 60 hours. It's 60 hours. It's 60 hours easily. I would say maybe more. I don't know, but I haven't finished it. But it's... Yeah, he got some unfortunate bugs. I had some bugs as well, and I was quite surprised because during the lead up to a game coming out, when you get it sort of 3 weeks or whatever early, often there will be patches. Now, there was one, I think, but I thought there would have been quite... Especially since it was PC-based, the review code, I kind of thought they'd patch it more. So I really hope that by the time people listen to this podcast and the game's out, that the patch... They've dropped like a big patch which fixes... Because we were... It's rare that I would say to Mick, actually, we need to feed this back, because that's not really our job. Our job's to review the game, to critique the game, is it any good or not. That's what QA's for. But there are some bugs that he encountered where it's like, we need to feed this back, because if this is a one-time... Someone paying for the game could get this, and it's not good. It needs fixing. Do you know what I mean? Generally, that aside, like the game is the actual game is a 10 out of 10 for me. It's absolutely phenomenal. You've got this XCOM side of it, this turn-based, this card-building game that is a tactical game, right? You've got the XCOM game where the Avengers and the Midnight Suns, and there's X-Men, and it's just all merges brilliantly. The other half of this game is an RPG. You're set at a base, okay, and it's an RPG, and the closest... I can't think of another thing to describe it as. The closest it reminded me of is it made me feel how the RPG parts of Mass Effect made me feel. Right? In that you are developing relationships, but you're not developing them just to see the bar go up. Now, you are doing that because every time something ticks over, it will upgrade something or change something. But, like, the initial feeling of when you start playing the sort of RPG... So, by the way, the amount of dialogue in this game, holy fuck. Most games don't do this. Most games, it's just like text. Everything's voiced. It's crazy how much dialogue is in this game. Like, crazy. But there's all this stuff you do at the Abbey, all this RPG stuff that you're doing because you like the story, you like the characters, and you want to see the relationships change. Like Marvel's Avengers for like consoles that Square Enix and Crystal Dynamics did. It had that problem right away of where you saw them and you're like, yeah, but that's not the MCU, is it? They don't look right, they don't sound right. And I think eventually people got past that. This was their Marvel characters. The thing about these ones is that they're all really good. Like, yes, some of them look different, but they're also, some of them are familiar enough. Like Blade looks like Blade. Yeah, right. Yeah. It looks like Blade. It looks like it's not Wesley Snipes. It looks like they've
borrowed heavily from that. Yeah.
But they've also got some of the original. Like they've got the voice actor for Spider-Man is the one who played the voice actor in the Insomniac Spider-Man games. Do you know what I mean? So they have pulled where they can some familiarity. So it's like when you played the Batman games. No, it wasn't Christian Bale, but it was, God rest his soul, Kevin Conroy's Batman, because people knew that voice.
Yeah.
And when I first started playing, I was like, I'm sure that Spider-Man voice seems familiar, but it can't be Tobey Maguire, or it can't be, any of the modern ones, I suppose. And it's like, it isn't, but it sort of also is. But the characters are all interesting. They've all got like their shades of grey, and they've got their light and their dark, and they're just well-written characters, man. And it's like, I was not expecting that. And there were periods of the time where I was playing more of the RPG stuff than I was the XCOM strategy stuff. It changes and it balances itself out a bit, but that's down to how much you want to do with it. And there's this whole Abbey where there's all these mysteries and puzzles and combat challenges, and there's all this stuff. It is just a massive game where take the RPG stuff out, but the combat stuff, it's remarkable because like even though sometimes you're fighting the same enemies, every character feels important. Like, you know, I don't know what characters you guys like or dislike in like Marvel, but I'm not a huge fan of Captain America in the MCU. He's great in this. Great character. Great in the combat. Is really useful. Like Wolverine is one that it's like I try not to have him on every party because I want to level everyone up, but I just can't. He's just so good. And then there'll be a mission that say forces you to use someone like Ghost Rider, who I'm not particularly. I've never seen any of the movies, never read any of the comics. I'm not a Ghost Rider dude. Do you know what I mean? But you have to have him for a mission, and you're like, oh, he's fucking good. He's got some cards that are badass cards. Like he's got a card where, and early on, he's one of the few that has this card that can take out like a line of enemies because he jumps on the back of his flaming car and just smashes through them all. And it's like it takes 3 heroism, so you have to build up to using it. But it's like in Hearthstone or something when you've been building towards using that damn card. But they're just so clever. They've taken cues from all these people who make card games, and there's, you know, Lyle, I know you're a big card game fan. There's like a card for the hero called Hunter that you create, male or female, and like one of them, and I use this every time this comes into my deck. It like because it randomizes. You got a deck of I think 8 cards. And between 3 heroes per mission, so you'll get like a variation, blah blah blah. Like some cards will have like if you KO someone, you'll get your card use refunded. So if you're on your last turn or last card, use that to kill a grunt, get a card back and a refund playback, and you're like, oh yes, you know, it's like that, you know, from the jaws of defeat. But there's like a card for the hunter who if you use it, he does like 150 damage, and that's a lot. That's a big card. But if you keep it in your deck, just keep it there on the screen every turn, you'll get 20 block every turn. So you're like, when that comes into your deck, you're like, oh yes, he's not going down. He's just going to keep getting block every turn. Yeah, fine, hit me all the time. And then you can get cards to taunt so that it makes them attack him. So you're blocking, and you know he's like your protector. Some of the people, they're like better at like Nico's better at like buffing, and you know like Wolverine's damage. They've all got this, and so few games balance. You know you end up with favourites, whether it's a Xenoblade again, where you know you've got a party of 6, but I like to play as that one, you know, or I don't really like to switch to them. Very few games get this right, where they all feel useful, and you feel almost bad when you're not using someone, and then when you use them, you're like, oh god, I forgot how good they were. Why am I using? Why have I not been using, you know, Ghost Rider? Why have I not been using him? He's great. Why have I let him level his levels? You know, and there's so much going on under the hood. Like I cannot recommend this game enough. It's difficult to say if you don't like strategy games. Like it's not because I see people in the comments saying like, oh, like you know, I don't like card. Why does it have to be card based? It's like, well, it doesn't have to be, but it really does work well. They've married, like, I guess, card games, XCOM style strategy, and RPG together in a way that, I'll be honest, I don't think they're getting enough credit for. Quite honest, like, I genuinely do not think this game's getting the credit it deserves. Like to marry all that, I know it's got a lot of bugs, but to marry all this stuff together full stop is. And the other thing as well is it doesn't feel like that kind of. Do you know how, like, in the MCU or generally when it comes to these big properties, you don't feel like, well, look, they're not going to swear and no one's going to get hurt, really. Like, this doesn't feel that way because they've pulled in enough of the lesser-known kind of characters. The ones I didn't know, like, I'm not a huge X-Man fan, so, like, I know Wolverine is, obviously, but I didn't know Magic was, I didn't know who Nico was, and these are great characters. Do you know what I mean? It's like... but it feels like because they're less known or less popularist, you know. Yes, Iron Man's there. Yes, Doctor Strange. Yes, you know, these characters are in the game, but they're not like the sole focus. And like Blade kills people. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, there's a cutscene before one of the story fights where Blade jumps off a roof and just straight up sticks a knife through someone's head. Now you don't see the knife go in, but it's very clear what's happened. Like, do you know what I mean? It's got that kind of almost. I don't know, roughness to it. I'm absolutely enamored with this game in a way that I didn't see coming at all. Like, I was playing it just before this podcast. I want to play more of it. Like, I'm reviewing a laptop, and it's like, well, that's what I'm playing on the laptop. this one, and like I'm just sat in the lounge, nearly burning my laps off because I've forgotten to put something between me and the laptop because I'm just sitting there like that. You know, I've missed World Cup matches because of it. It's just the only thing I'd say is at the time of recording, I don't know anyone who's played it on console. It's all been PC, so I'm really hopeful that is just. It's not uncommon for Axis are very much a PC developer. They always were, probably always will be. It's not uncommon. It could just be coincidence. I'm sure the PlayStation version, etc., is fine. I'm sure it is. I can't confirm if it is, though. We do want to test it still, but I really would be quite upset because it's such a phenomenal game. It really is.
Yeah, because what you say as well, you've been playing it with like a controller exclusively as well.
Yeah,
so
I actually think I would prefer to play it with a controller. Like I think I don't. Yeah. I'm not the guy who normally does that. I'm normally like, it's a PC game. I play with mouse and keyboard. Thank you very much. But not at all. Like it just felt like it was designed this way. I mean, you can, of course, you can. It's still a mouse and keyboard game, but it just feels right as it is. Yeah, so I would be quite disappointed if it was poor on console. But right now, I can't confirm. So
it's just it's one of those games.
You'd love it.
Well, this is it. You list the components. You go right. It's a card game, right? Well, that's a massive tick then, because it's like Magic the Gathering.
Well, importantly, it's a good card game.
Yeah. And then you're like, oh, and then it's got Marvel characters in it. Oh, and then it's got RPG, which is up there with Mass Effect, which I know I should play, but I can equate that to other games that I've actually played.
Yeah, like Dragon Age,
like,
that kind of relationship.
Way, Chris, there's BioWare and collectibles, and I'm like, oh my tits. And it's just like...
I've spent... and Mick will say the same, I know it's not to say it, and I'm sure Chris will say it. I've spent hours just exploring the Abbey, because it's...
No,
I'm going to say it. I wasn't going to say it, because I didn't want to make you too aroused, but it's also a Metroidvania, because as you progress, you unlock powers as your character for the Abbey. Like the first one you get...
Is it a good Metroidvania?
Yeah, it is.
No, anyway, carry on.
Yeah, it lets you open doors, and then you get another power that lets you do things, and then another power, and then the 4 powers that let you gain sort of access to the whole Abbey, and then you can get all the collectibles. Like, it's one of those where if you are playing it, don't go mad trying to find the collectibles, because you can't get them all until you've got all the powers. So like and some of them require story progress. So just play it. You know. But yeah, it's just such a clever game.
Sounds really good. We both want to play it now. Thanks.
It really. I hate to be like, hey, it's December and there's one more game. It's so good. Like it was one of those where I expected Chris White, myself, or Mick, one of us was going to be like, what are you guys talking about? This is not... What are you talking about? You keep saying this is... But like... And I thought it was going to be Chris White, because he kept very quiet on the subject, and he's like, yeah, I've spent 20 hours playing it in the last few days. I'm like, what? And it, like, you know what I mean? It was like... It's just... Yeah, if you can. Watch the video review, see what you think of that. See, because it's a nice looking game as well, but yeah. But other than that, it is time for a very special jingle.
Chris Hyde, listen to Correspondence. It's time. It's time. Chris Hyde. You're such a dick. I mean, I'm still playing. Like, we know I'm behind, right? So I'm still sort of watching it, but it's great. I'm gonna have to watch.
I thought I'd shown you that one. I don't remember.
No, yeah. I don't think so. Not in the fully finished form.
Okay.
So I'll list that way, but it looks superb. Right, let's crack on with the questions. The first one it's a belter actually. It's a really interesting one, I think, from McPoo. It says, in the spirit of remakes that veer from the original, what are you hoping for from Resident Evil 4 remake? Are you hoping for a straight-up remake like Resident Evil 2 remake, or something that goes off-piece like Final Fantasy 7 remake, which is, given we're talking about, is on point? He says, I think they'll struggle to capture the tone of the original, so it might be good to see them put their own spin on it. So, yeah. Adam.
Well, I've played it, haven't I?
Not all of it.
No, not all of it, but I was like hugely impressed with it. I was a bit trepidatious about it, because I was like... It's a bit like the Final Fantasy 7 thing, in that the original still exists, but does it need the remake? And like now I've played it, I was just so impressed with that opening section. I think it is. You see, like he called Resident Evil 2 remake a straight up remake. I think the visuals make it feel a bit more than that, if that makes sense. It is the same story, I don't think they're going to change much of the story at all. I would imagine, and I think tone-wise, I think it'll be a scarier game. I think they will go more down the horror route. That's the feeling I got from the opening, sort of the way the game's lit and the way that they've developed sort of the small shacks into meaningful areas that are like, oh god, this was just a small shack I walked in, and now it's like a building, and I can walk around it, and there's corridors and corners and enemies lurking, and I think they've nailed the tone so far. Like the chainsaw guy is terrifying. You know what I mean? It's like, I think so far they've nailed the tone. I think a combination of the two is what we're going to end up with, because there's some stuff they're going to have to change.
Yeah,
but there's also some stuff they can't change. They can't have they can't not have the merchant. What do you buy? They can't.
Oh yeah,
it has to be there.
I feel like for me with this, as much as I really like Resident Evil 4. I've written on the site about how good a game that is. I wouldn't want this to just feel like it's that game, but it looks really nice. Mm-hmm. Like I know it can't change main story beats and even certain moments in that game and how it progresses. I know it can't. And I don't want it to, because as part of that, that's why I like it, right? Some of the stuff it does. But I guess the examples you've just given kind of give me a little bit of hope, because I want it to feel different enough so that I'm like, oh, this is a bit, and like the type of thing you just said there, it's like, rather than just exploring, the hut of the day kind of thing, and it's like, I've been here a million times before, whereas actually if there's more to those smaller bits that don't impact the overall story, but it makes certain things feel different enough, so I'm like, oh, this is good. Like, do you know what I mean? I think that's how I want to feel like it. Like, it's not like you don't change the story or anything, or the big bad.
Hunnigan's in it. Hunnigan. The woman Leon speaks.
Hunnigan. Yeah, I think the female operative you're talking about.
Yes, she's in it. Like they didn't give us any of that footage to show, but I mean, like that's a part of the story.
I want it to. Whenever I think about these types of things, I'm almost like, I want it to feel different, because otherwise, why do it? Right?
But I also want to
go through it going, I remember when this was like amazing, and now look what they've done with it. That's how I want to feel.
I don't think people will be disappointed in what it's a very small slice, but I don't think people are going to be disappointed at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything to add, Hair Car?
Not really. I really like Resident Evil 4. I want to play something that feels like I'm playing Resident Evil 4, but a bit moderner. And I reckon that's probably going to go down all right.
It's what I want is what I played. In that, like, I was like, wait, what's going? Oh, that's where we are, and that's what I had. Do you know what I mean? Like
that excites me. It's
like when I'm walking around this house, going, I don't remember this, and then you go around yes, I do. Wow, this is. Wow. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Sort of thing.
That's what I want.
Like the bit in the village that I showed in the video, like where it's like, well, we know this. They all come at you and you have to survive a time. Yeah. And I'm like, when I'm playing it, I played it a few times at Capcom, and I'm like, they're taking there's about 3 times more bloody Gyarados than there was before. This is ridiculous. Yeah. You know what I mean? And they've added, like, you can stealth kill and stuff, though. You can stealth kill. You can creep up and stealth people with a knife. They've added the knife, which has got a durability. There's parrying. Like, they have added stuff that is like, they haven't gone with changing the game. What they've done is taken the fundamentals and gone, how could we elevate it? And that's how they should have been looking at it. And I'm confident so far that that's what they're doing. They're saying, not how can we change this, how can we elevate this game? And we've got a chance to do so let's do it. All the things maybe they couldn't do at the time.
They're also not saying, well, this was the game, so that's all it can be, which is the other way you can go.
That's pointless. That is just a... Yeah, that's pointless.
That's just a graphical overhaul.
Which we don't need, because the original's not exactly ugly. It's not brilliant looking, but it exists still. Go play it. In VR, no less, if you want, on Meta Quest. You know.
Okie doke. So now we've got mixed questions. So he's given questions to all of us as per usual. So Adam, I'll start with your questions.
Okay. I can rattle through these. I've been thinking about them.
Okay. What game code that you don't have right now would make you immediately hook up your Xbox Series X and play? He loves an Xbox Series X question.
He does.
Doesn't he? So what game code that you don't have now that would make you immediately hook up your Series X and play it?
I feel like it's an obvious one, isn't it?
Is it just Starfield?
It's Starfield, yeah. I want to play Starfield. Listen, I'll play it on
Hellblade's
PC.
the only other one I think.
But
I would
Starfield's
want
sooner
to.
anyway, in it. So
I think.
it's
So.
just
Well,
more
do you know,
on
I
the
was
mind.
doing a release date thing for the site for next year, and I realised they haven't, to my knowledge, given a release date for Starfield again, have they? It was due out. It should have been out by now, and
Yeah,
it
it
got pushed
should have
back.
been out by
I
now.
don't
Been out by
recall
now.
them giving a new date.
If they're not,
Maybe
sort
maybe Stalker, just to be less up. I never really got on with those sort of games. It's the Metro style game. It's
Yeah.
Starfield. I'm sorry
I guess
to
the
be
point
Captain
is
Obvious.
immediately hook up. It would be Starfield.
Starfield.
Yeah.
Sorry, Starfield.
Favorite nut. Favorite nut in a chocolate bar.
Now, my initial thought was hazelnut, and then I thought about it a bit more.
Yeah.
Praline.
Solid answer. Say again.
Praline.
Oh.
Is that not?
Now,
I
That's
mean,
a nut. It's
it's
hazelnut.
It's certainly nuttish,
Praline,
flavored,
nut
if
adjacent.
not nutty.
praline. I'm sorry. Food of the gods. Like for me,
Yeah.
I mean,
just-
it's hazelnut based again, isn't it?
hazelnut. Yeah,
So,
it is,
so,
yeah.
so you know, you've got hazelnuts, praline, you got Nutella. You know, all the good stuff, really. I mean,
Yeah.
I like nuts, full
Praline's
stop.
top tier.
I mean, if again, to be less obvious, maybe peanuts. You know, in a Snickers bar or that sort of
Yeah.
thing.
Reese's peanut butter cup.
Reese's peanut butter.
Oh,
yeah,
I've got
yeah.
a Reese's advent calendar.
Have you ever had the white chocolate one?
Yes,
Yeah.
in door one.
Okay.
Just to peek behind the
I-
curtain of like what day
I
we're
think
recording.
I think they're too sweet.
Probably.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
One's
like,
fine, but the pack of 3.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm
Oh,
not
I'd
this
eat them.
big because
Just to be clear. Yeah, I'm
I
sorry.
like-
I don't want anyone thinking, oh no, I turn them down. Absolutely not.
No, absolutely not. No,
Stupid. Ridiculous.
But yeah, no. Door one, door one in the old advent calendar today was a white chocolate peanut butter cup.
What about where do you stand on like a chocolate coated Brazil nut?
Oh yeah,
A bit old fashioned, but
Oh, I love a
underrated.
Brazil
A
nut.
big,
I
and I
don't-
mean
I
a
think-
a big.
yeah, like
Yeah.
a chunk. Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
yeah. 2
yeah,
bites
like-
is what I'm getting at.
to the point where if I got given one of those, like chocolate covered nut assortment boxes you can get at Christmas,
I have not seen these, but go on.
but like you could get like I don't know, like dark chocolate covered Brazil nuts. That would be
Yeah,
That's good.
It's
we're
high
on the way.
end, that isn't
it
it?
is. No, I'm all in for that.
I don't think you. I mean, I'm trying to think. Is there a nut I don't like with chocolate? Like I
don't
think they
think
just
so.
kind of go well, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I think
Yeah.
hazelnut would probably be my.
yeah.
He said
Hazelnuts
it-
probably.
He is saying in a chocolate bar, so that's why I'm saying hazelnuts because of the praline aspect.
Yeah, no.
Does
I'd
anyone
agree with.
remember the Cadbury's? Ah, shit. What was it called? Began with B. No, sorry, marble. Remember the marble bar?
Marble. What that was?
It was
that
like
was praline,
white
wasn't
chocolate and praline
it? Yeah,
through
and,
it.
and white and milk together. Marble.
I think so. Yeah, and
Yeah.
and praline. That was a good one.
Yeah.
So hazelnut.
Okay.
But listen, if you're going to offer me Cadbury's whole nut, cool.
Yeah, just whatever.
Yeah.
All of
Whatever
them.
chocolate deal Cadbury's want to do with us.
Yeah.
We're all
oh
in
God,
for.
can you imagine?
Yeah, if you want to sponsor us, whatever nut, we're fine with. Favorite crisps to have with Guinness.
Now, I thought
Do
long
you
and
drink
hard about
Guinness?
this one. I don't. I have had Guinness before. It's fine. But I thought long and hard about this, and I realised that the answer to this one is innie.
I mean, it's a fair answer.
Wow.
Told you we'd rattle through them.
But I mean, I think that's fair. Like, surely any crisp versus no crisp.
Well, that's exactly it. I mean,
Yes. Yeah. Although what I would say is, if I was having crisps with any alcoholic drink, whether it's a pint of Guinness or a pint of beer or whatever, I think I'd be a bit disappointed if I was eating like a ready salted. Like I'd want like a strong flavour.
look, I would never turn down a packet of ready salted anything.
No,
just to be
no,
absolutely clear.
no.
But I would. There's always going to be that element of you're giving me plain,
Yeah, exactly.
and let's
You're giving me
let's
essentially
be clear.
partly flavoured.
They
What I
were
want is
plain crisps when I was a kid. That's
Yeah.
what they were.
Yeah,
There
they're
was
plain.
cheese and onion,
Exactly. Yeah.
salt and vinegar, plain.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I want to be.
It's like come on now. I know people have said this in Discord, and by all means, become a patron. And it's a safe space to give your opinions. But you're fucking wrong if your favourite Pringle flavour is red. Like you're
that
just
is
wrong.
weird.
Plain
You're
Pringles.
just wrong. There are so many flavours of Pringles, and if your
They
favourite
really
is
are,
plain,
by the way.
plain, then you're just wrong. There we go.
But please join the.
But
the,
Please
do
join the
tell
Patreon
us.
because we're a
Yeah.
welcoming crowd and we cover lots of welcoming of all diverse opinions. But on that, you're wrong.
Yeah. What about
Next question
though?
for you, Adam?
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
hang on.
Sorry, we're not. I want to delve into this a little bit more because I think surely there's some crisps that are definitely worse. I can't imagine with a Guinness a what's it. That feels weird.
You see, I was going to say, and Chris, I need you to brace yourself a little bit for this. I don't think prawn cocktail would work with a Guinness.
No, do you know what? I thought he was going to say that because I thought he was going to piss me off.
Okay.
Because he knows my favourite Pringle is prawn cocktail. I think the best flavours for like Guinness.
It's the standard ones, right? It's the original, the OG
strong
crew.
cheese and onion, or a flame grilled McCoy, or something like that.
Ooh.
And to your point, Lyle, I think what you're getting at is it's got to be that type of McCoy kettle chip type crisp rather than a skip or a what's it or a hula hoop.
I think
Quavers.
Quavers, I think, again, is not... or a pack of cheddars, if you want to call them crisps. I don't think that they're working with the Guinness. I think you need, for want of a better phrase, an old-fashioned manly crisp.
Yeah. Like a Brannigan's.
I mean, I say that, and my favourite is sweet chili and prawn cocktail.
Yeah,
but like, you know what I mean? Like the OG crew, you know?
Yeah. Okay. Done, Lyle?
We're done now. Yeah, that's
right.
fine.
Okay. So, Adam, next question is
Yeah.
thoughts on the Overwatch 2 new season skins?
Quite like them.
Is that it?
Sorry, yeah. Did you want more? That I quite like them.
I mean,
I
only
won't
if
be
you've
paying
got- only
money
if
for
you
them.
wanna say more.
Well, I won't be
I
paying
don't
money
wanna-
for them, but I do quite like them. They're based on the Greek gods, from what I can see, the Greek sort of mythology, and I quite like them. There's some quite cool ones, but
All right. Favorite Christmas meal highlight from the last few years? Oh, that's a good question.
How do you pick?
well, so there's a few staples that I won't pick, but I will say the Coca-Cola ham has become a staple to go along with the turkey every year.
What, like glazing your own ham?
Glazing Coke, in a bottle of Coke, full fat
yeah, we
Coke.
do
Really
that,
important,
yeah.
by the way. If anyone's ever thinking of doing that, full fat Coke, even if you don't. I had a chestnut soup once that was really tasty, and it had crispy bacon on the top of it, like just small bits of crispy bacon on top of the chestnut soup, and it's quite a thick soup. We did have giant pigs in blankets last year, I think. They were like Cumberland.
What, like normal sized sausages?
No, they weren't normal sized sausages. They were like Cumberlands, and that was something. I'm quite simple. Like, the thing I like most about Christmas meals is the pigs and blankets.
Which is always the right decision, really.
I
isn't
just
it?
don't.
You
like,
can't go wrong.
Well, you also can't get enough. Like, there is no number my wife could produce and say, I have got this many pigs in blankets, that I will not, hilariously, I might add, reply, well, what about everybody else, my dear?
Yes, yeah. I'm very similar with roast potatoes. Now, to be clear, we have pigs in blankets and sausage meat, so I can double down on meat. But then
When you say
also-
sausage meat, are you talking about stuffing?
No. I'm talking about
Just a bowl.
just yeah. So like basically a massive sausage that you've then cooked, essentially.
That's
And then you
stuffing,
just
though,
slice
surely.
that. What's that?
Isn't that just stuffing, though, in a way?
No, the stuffing then we have separate. This is why I'm massive, right? so we have turkey and pigs in blankets and sausage meat and stuffing and bread sauce. But that wasn't even what I was going to talk about.
Bread sauce? No, that's not something we have.
Bread sauces, yeah. Anyway.
Oh, God, I'm
And,
looking forward to Christmas dinner.
And the thing that I'm like with that, I'm like, have we done enough roast potatoes?
We
Like,
actually genuinely had this conversation in real life, didn't we? A few weeks ago.
Yeah,
in
yeah.
person, we actually discussed
you,
this.
You can validate it.
Yeah,
I'm not
no, I
making
can
it up.
actually vouch.
She's
This
like,
is not made up.
I literally can't fit any more in the oven. I'm
Yep.
like, yeah, but is 7 each enough? Because I'll be honest with you, sweetheart, I'm having at least 10. So what we're basing this on is that everyone else here needs to be having a max of 5. And it's like I'm relying on grandma to be knocking back only a couple, so I can up the ante a little bit, and that's before we even start talking about seconds. So yeah, it's very much like, but what's everyone else having if you're only doing 77 potatoes?
I know it's almost grotesque to say it, because like the world is struggling and poverty, and I know that. Listen, I'm not particularly well off, but I feel like it's not been in our house. I should say specifically in our house. I feel like it isn't a successful Christmas if you're not kind of like sat on the sofa for a bit after.
I think and again, you've heard this, so you know this is true. One year, this is like I went round the in-laws for Christmas Day. Spent a week or so.
You're going to tell this story on a real.
Yeah.
Okay.
In for a penny, in for a pound. They won't listen.
No, that's probably true.
And
You're having second thoughts now. Admit it.
I am, because you're Chris.
I'm just as your genuine friend. I would say change the names at least.
I'm the same as you. Like, it's almost a challenge, right? How
it's an overindulgement day,
and it's overindulgement, and it's probably why I'm going to die young. But anyway, a few years ago, in-laws for Christmas, and they pulled out Christmas dinner, and it was perfectly lovely. Put that in there for us. Tasted lovely. It was like, isn't it nice not to eat too much as a Christmas dinner? And I was just like,
for once, we just
I was just like, and I can't say what I want to say, which is no. Where's the rest of it?
It's not. What's
absolutely
if you needed
not.
money, why didn't you tell us?
Yeah, I'd have brought my own reserve Christmas dinner if this is all that was going to get served.
But you see, I don't know if this is not again a bit of an older person thing in that, like, so. Lyle, I know you're not young, but you're the youngest person here.
So young, yeah.
Bubble and Squeak?
Not really. It's not
no, but you know what it is. You know what it is.
Yeah, it's like
and would you, it's not something you're into, obviously, but like that for me, that's
it's not something I've ever really had. But in the same time, like, there's certainly nothing wrong with it. It's something
I think what I'm saying is, it's certainly nothing. I sound like we're in gluttony here. Nothing ever goes to waste. It is all eaten.
No. Oh,
nothing ever goes off. That's
there's as much as I moan to Zoe about like not having enough food and not having enough potatoes and everything. There better be enough for me to have an entire Christmas dinner again on Boxing Day.
That's
in leftovers.
I will say, having two young male children has changed things, because whereas before it's like there are certain people that I will be watching as the pigs and blankets go around the table.
Yeah.
And now I have two grown young men who are family who live here, and I'm like, I can't stress enough how you've not bought enough.
Yeah.
You've seen my youngest is like he's a health freak. He goes to the gym all the time. He bulks up and stuff. He's a muscly kid and he's slim. But he likes his food. And it's like, oh yeah, but he's only small. Yeah, but you've seen him eat after school. This is not yeah. It's always pigs and blankets is the answer. Sorry, it's always pigs and blankets. It's always the highlight. It's always one of the things you're like, why do we only have this at Christmas? Anyway,
this year for Christmas dinner, I'm doing, because we happen to have like a pre-made mix in the cupboard that I noticed the other day, but I'm doing a pigs in blankets toad in the hole just as a side, and I think that's going to be pretty good. I'm quite excited.
So for that, it's presumably sausage wrapped in bacon in a Yorkshire. That's how that is.
Yeah, and it's in like I usually do it in like a sort of like proper deep dish.
It sounds so obvious.
You're making your own batter for that.
Yeah.
It sounds so obvious when you say it, and yet
I know. Yeah.
God blimey.
So yeah, but we're also still having. I was informed. I was told very specifically that's not allowed to be the only pigs in blankets we have.
Oh, so and I'm with that. Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
And obviously, I wasn't like, oh no, that's obviously. I had agreed.
It wasn't like,
but it just needed saying. It just needed saying out loud, so we could both be sure
we're on the same page. Yeah.
I mean, we used to have that discussion when the family was smaller, shall we say, and it's like, well, we did the ham, the Coca-Cola ham thing, and in the early days, it used to be as an addition. Like, what do you mean? We're still having turkey? Yeah, but everyone moans about turkey. No, but we're still having turkey, right? Yeah, just to be clear, this is as an addition. Okay, cool. We are on the same. Yeah. We should do some other questions, otherwise it's gonna.
Yes. We like Christmas food, is what we're saying. Right, Lyle, your questions, mate. Pokemon Scarlet or Violet if you had to buy one?
I'd buy Violet because I think it's a better name, and you can get all the Pokemon from any of them anyway. It's not that big a deal.
That was quite quick. Given the option since you played Crisis Core for preview, would you have played it on Steam Deck or Switch over PS5, or are the visuals on PS5 enough to make you stick with it if you had the choice to go on another platform?
In a preview sense.
In a preview sense. This is actually quite tricky because it does look really good on the big screen. I am enjoying it there, and it sort of feels right there. But it was originally a portable game, and I bet I'd love it on the Steam Deck. I'd probably just play it on the Steam Deck because it's where I really want to play everything. But I'm enjoying it where I'm playing it to, in a preview sense, of course.
You're learning. How are you finding Deerfield Chronicles?
Yeah, it's good. I like Deerfield Chronicles. It's interesting that it's not a tactics game. It's like real time, and you don't get that very much. But they do it very cleverly, where it's like you're not controlling so much that your mind's going numb. Like it's simplified to the exact right amount for someone like me. So I think it's a really good game. It's because I've never like full on RTS like an Age of Empires or a StarCraft or something. Like I'm not going to be able to do that, or certainly not well. So I like the idea that I don't embarrass myself playing it.
Always good. And the $1 million question: how's Elden Ring going? By the way, surely you're near the end by now.
I'm not going to say anything more about Elden Ring until the Game of the Year podcasts. You'll notice during the God of War Ragnarok section, I also said very little. I like to keep some mystique for these podcasts, so you'll find out more then about how I'm finding all of these heavy-hitting games. I've not spoken much about Horizon Forbidden West, but I've played that. There's loads of games I've not talked about playing. Splatoon 3, Bayonetta 3. You'll find out about all these and more, maybe, at the Game of the Year podcasts, which you will be listening to because they're the best podcasts of the year.
Yeah, I mean, if you're listening to this and not them, that seems a bit of
a bad decision on your part.
Outrageous.
Speaking of, Chris, your questions. Game of the Year discussion that you're looking forward to the least.
Yeah, this is an interesting one.
Does it involve me? Probably.
Yeah, it's fucking talking to Lyle. No, I think I've thought about this. It's a good question, actually. I think the ones I always look forward to the least, I think, is like when, you know, there's either a game or a moment or a character that like has really resonated with you as an individual, but at the same time, you know, you're kind of on your own a little bit with it. Like, I feel like they're the ones that they're the bits I look forward to the least, because you want to talk about it, you want to give it the airtime, you're really passionate about it. It might have been a moment that's moved you or affected you, or, you know, thought was really well done. And you give it the airtime, but you know, ultimately it's not going to end in a, well, yeah, we all agree. Yeah. And because it's either people might have not played something, or that a moment or a character just didn't land with other people in the same way, right? Because some of those things are really personal. So you always want to talk about it because it's really important to you, but it's like, it's awkward because you're like, you know, it's not going to gather the support because ultimately it's a team top 5, 10, depending on the categories, right? So they're always the ones that you think you look forward to the least because you kind of, you know what's coming kind of thing. And it's kind of written on the wall a little bit because, you know, we do talk, we don't reveal as much, you know, we keep some cards close to our chest, but you also know what people have played and what people haven't and their thoughts on certain things. But I guess I would say, in balance to that, it's good. What I quite like, as much as like, you know, me and Lyle, epic bands throughout the year, but we're very different in terms of what we like. But it does mean that everything gets its moment. And I think that's quite a nice thing about our Game of the Year podcast is we'll always give things the shout outs and the mentions when they have impacted us and they are worth talking about. So it'd be boring if we were all the same. So that's a really
wouldn't
good thing.
Be very long, would it?
It wouldn't be. Yeah, it'd be easy thing to do, but it would be very interesting.
I'd introduce you all, and then I'd just read each list, and that's the end of it.
We'd all be so happy with each other at the end.
Yeah, there would be no animosity whatsoever.
How's Xenoblade 3 going? Surely you've snuffing finished? ?
No, but I will have done
soon.
For certain podcasts.
Just
commitment I'll make.
If you could, this is an odd one. If you could change one thing about the Geek website, what would it be?
Whoa,
this
whoa
is
now,
harsh.
everybody.
Just literally throw Adam under the bus here and go, this bit's shit, and we need to talk about it.
It's a bit of an odd thing to do on a live podcast, but
It is a little bit. No, I think I'm not going to answer it directly in the sense that this, probably what is, picking holes. What I will say is, I think, Adam will attest to this. We've come a long way, I think, in the last sort of 18 months or so in terms of the type, not just the type of coverage that we're doing, but how we're trying to move the site forward and stuff. And actually, quite proud of kind of the journey we've been on and the results we're seeing like that. So I think what we have learned is that we do need to kind of assess and change things all the time and think about what works and what doesn't and how we can improve the site. So there isn't one thing I'd call out, but I know that it's a conversation that we can have, and we try new things. Some things work, some things don't, but we're always now looking to move forward and improve, and hopefully that improves the content and the engagement from viewers and people that digest the site. So yeah,
I mean, yeah, mine would sort of just been more numbers, more viewers, more readers, more Patreons, more everything. That would have been my changing.
More money.
Yeah.
More money.
More
I mean, in the chat, like Mikhail says, given more resources. I mean, more resources would mean more time, essentially.
Yeah, I think there's always like I say, there's always improvements you can make, and obviously that's what we're trying to do. We're all, I think everyone knows, we're all sort of like, this, when we're part-time, this is a passion project that we put a lot of time and effort into, so we want to see it succeed, right? So it's one of those things that you're always looking for what can improve, what can improve the site, the numbers and all that sort of stuff, because that's ultimately what it's about. It's about reaching out to people and having an impact on them. So yeah,
that's when you're supposed to go play the jingle.
Play the jingle. Chris Hyde, yeah. Listen to Correspondence. Yeah. It's time. It's time. Chris Hyde.
And that is all we have time for this week. Thank you to Chris and Lyle for being here, as always. And just a reminder again that we may be a little, I say it every year, we're a little sporadic in that. We definitely will try and get another one done. We don't want you to go the whole of December without it. But what I will say is that we do try and give our Patreons the Game of the Year pods a week early. So if you are like, I love that every year, like maybe times are tough. I'm not going to, for everyone, in some way, things are getting harder. If you've ever thought about becoming a Patreon, December's kind of a really good month to do it because you get all the Game of the Year stuff early. But it would also give you that little chance to dip your toes into our Discord and our community and to meet some of the people that we sort of speak to regularly, every day. So if you've always thought, it would be cool, I want to support them guys, or it would be cool to get them podcasts early, December's probably the best month to do it because of the Game of the Year stuff, and because, like I say, you'll get to meet the Discord community and meet people like Steve, who made the jingle for the video you've just seen. If you're watching the video, well, even if you're just audio-wise, you're hearing that music. So, and it's weird because I've known podcasts to do jingles and stuff, and I've always kind of resisted it. I wrote the theme tune for our the intro and that and performed that, but I've always been a bit resistant to jingles and stuff mid-pod, and it's just sort of evolved into that.
Anything to stop me singing it, I think, was mainly the goal with that.
Oh, I'm not going to say that I didn't press gang him into like it was, and he knows I love him. But yeah, you meet people like that by joining our patreon.com/GodIsAGeek and then linking it all up with Discord. It's pretty self. If anyone ever has any issues with that when they sign up, just let me know and I'll make sure they get added to this Discord. But it does work. There's a bot that does all that for us. But yeah, thank you very much for being here for this week. If we're not here next week, you know why? Because we're recording lots of lovely content for you in the future. But we will be back at some point before then. Otherwise, we will speak to you next week, maybe week after, but whenever you choose to listen. Okay? Bye bye for now.